I want to welcome our audience because today we have a little bit of a changing in the program. Originally, we're going to have Des coming in, but it's in the same topic in a way because we're still talking about kindness and compassion. And it's just all about kindness and compassion. And Des has been doing a lot of kindness work for the last, I don't know, 15 years, perhaps longer. She has been head coach and a founder of this company called Radiant Coaching, and I have benefit from it. So many people have benefit from it because of her kindness, and that's why we invite her up here to share with us about her program. But her program also linked into the Refugee Film School. That's how I found Des, is through Jana. So we are all one big happy family, and we want to be supporting the cause between refugees like me, like Sarah, and people with a large heart like Jana and like Des. So that's why we have both of them on today. So without further ado, we're going to have Sarah quickly introduce who she is, and then we're going to get right into the program right after Sarah introduce who we are, actually.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good to be back. I'm just going to introduce myself very quickly today. So I'm Sarah M., co-host, and I grew up in Cambodia, lived through a very hard time during the communist Khmer Rouge took over our country. I struggled during those 4 years, almost did not make it when 2 million people died in the process. But I'm grateful that I survived. Not only that, I was able to escape out of the country, and I'm beyond grateful that I'm here. And a lot of people that showed their compassion.
Yes, Apple. Sorry.
A lot of people in the United States express and show their compassion, their kindness, and support me to start in this country. So I'm just beyond grateful. I'm able to publish my story in the book, How I Survived the Killing Fields. And I'm now a speaker to go out and share my message. You can find more on my website, saraim.com, SARAIM.com. So,
thank you, Sarah.
Back to you.
So if you are new in this platform, welcome. My name is Lea Tran. I'm the other half of this show that we are on every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And we feature our guests. The topic more or less is a thriving conversation. And each month we have a different theme. And for August, we have the theme of, you guessed it, compassion and kindness. So my background is also from a refugee background. I come from the sea, where Sarah come from the jungle. So when the jungle meet the sea, we just have, tons of things to talk about. And addition to all our guests that who've been through life, who's been through so many trials and tribulations, and we want them to share their story with us, and that's why we're here. You can find me on leatran.com. I have a book, I have a TEDx talk, I'm a coaching, thanks to Des and Jana. So that is the service that what I want to offer to help other people to find their voice, to find something that they didn't think that is possible for them. But look at me and Sarah, it is possible for all of us if we put our mind to that. With that, I'm gonna ask Des to introduce herself because she's got a credential that it's gonna take me a long time to say it, but she can definitely sum it up and give you the essence of it. So hi, Des. Welcome to be here with us, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lea. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jana. Well, in terms of coaching, my credentials are I've been a professional coach for about 16 years. I have been training and certifying coaches for about 9 years. And it really comes from a place of humanitarianism for me. I have always wanted to serve others. I've always wanted to help people. And I didn't know what that was going to look like when I was little. But when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, that's what I would say. I want to help people. So coaching is a really good fit for me. And what I've noticed about my coaching is I have more of a humanitarian slant than most. I want to make coach training affordable and accessible to the masses. Coaching has been traditionally pretty pricey to become one or to hire one. So I've just had a real passion for impoverished communities and marginalized communities, just wanting to make sure that everyone has a chance to receive coaching and to become a coach if they want to, because it can be a very lucrative profession. And when I train coaches, I teach them to use their humanitarian muscles and flex them a lot.
That is just wonderful. And if you, Jana or Des, can tell us how about your relation and how it's all tangled up between the Refugee Film School and the Radiant coaching, and how we all benefit from helping each other.
I'd love it if Des would tell that part.
Well, it's a long story, about 20 years in the making, but Jana has been such a gift to me in my career that she has introduced me to so many amazing people and opportunities, and honestly has helped me get a couple of really great jobs. But when we reconnected after a couple of years, I knew that she was doing some work in Southeast Asia. I knew that it was humanitarian work. I was very curious about it. So when we reconnected, she told me about Refugee Film School and the mentors that she was seeking to basically coach, talk to, mentor young teenagers who lived in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, who were refugees from the Middle East. And as soon as she said that, my ears perked up and I was like, I'm in. Tell me more. I'm happy to help. And it has been an incredible experience. The more I learn about these kids, the more I love them. I really respect Jana for the work that she's doing, because I learn a lot about volunteering and people going places and meeting people and wanting to make a difference, but very few of them do it for the long haul the way Jana is. She's so committed. She's been doing it for a long time now, probably 15 years or so. And I am just in awe of the work that she does, and I'm happy to be part of what she's doing.
Well, on top of that, would you explain a little bit about the sister program Rise in Honduras, that where you also give part of that as a humanitarian project?
About 3 years ago, we've been training in Honduras since 2015 on full scholarship, because it's one of the most impoverished countries in the world. The city that we train in is the highest murder capital rate of the whole world, about 10 years running now. It's dangerous to be a Honduran there, not a tourist. We love going there. And about 3 years ago, we decided to start coaching teenagers, and some of them, 33 of them specifically, at one particular school, a bilingual school, and 7 of them came to us and said, can I become a coach? Can I also do that, not just be coach? Because we had a leadership coaching program for them. In Honduras, 11th grade is graduation, if they get that far. And there's a ceiling that they hit. There's a mindset where they don't imagine their future beyond high school. So we help them with that. And that started 3 years ago, which we call Rise Honduras. And RISE stands for Radiant Initiatives for Sustainable Education. So when Jana and I connected, I thought, aha, we could do this in Malaysia too. So now we call that Rise Refugees. And it is, oh gosh, probably, we started last year. We have now about 35 students, I believe it is. Some are adults, some are students, because the adults are the mentors of those students. And they have taken to it so well, very curious, very open, and wanting to do great things with their coach training.
Mm-hmm.
So Jana, before I express my 2 cents, I would love you to tell the audience that how do you even think about Des and invite her to be part of it, and how did your mind work in a sense that you can just rope everything together, and us, the mentor, the board, are totally benefit from whatever that your great minds are doing. And I want to say that I am very grateful to be part of the program.
And we're so lucky to have you on the board. Ever since I first heard your story about I did not miss the boat and imagined your dad building a boat for families that you cared about and were connected to go out into the ocean for an unlimited period of time and try to navigate to another place away from Vietnam to save you and your siblings. I've just had such a connection. I've been to Vietnam many times. And Sarah, I've been to Cambodia many times. And I have a great connection with both those countries because they're beautiful countries. Anyone would want to go visit them, and to think of all the bombs that were just dropped out of the sky on innocent people is hard to imagine, and hard to imagine that you two were children who survived that. And Des and I, our connection is this. When we see Des, we think, oh my gosh, this is a one-of-a-kind woman. She is a 1 in a million. Would you believe she has a twin sister? And these are equally brilliant women in different ways. My mom, an elementary school music teacher, always says, it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. And so I knew Des first when she was working for a nonprofit. She was doing graphic design and marketing for them. And she helped me get the graphic design of my first brochure, which I will duck out when she's talking and I'll see if I can find. And so we were always connected through her sister Denise, her twin sister Denise, who was my business manager and created my speaking business with me that was international and very successful. We had a record company, and it was just Denise, me, and 2 other friends there who were figuring it out, and Des would come in and out and help us because she always had other jobs and she was doing other great work too. But that's how we knew each other long ago, and didn't see each other until we were looking for mentors for Refugee Film School. And when I saw that Des had stepped up, I was thrilled. And that's how all of us are connected now, through Des saying yes. And you know, Des, you said something about a humanitarian by accident or something like that. Could you speak to that?
Accidental activism is what I call it. You know, I think a lot of us are purposeful. We volunteer, we might write letters to our government officials about things we care for. We all have a cause that we care about, right? But I think activism is different from advocacy, and it's literally just more active. You know, it's the doing, not just the thinking and the feeling. So for me, accidental activism is things like my friend Shannon, who, by the way, Jana introduced me to. I'm so grateful for that. A friend of mine called me and she said, she's a film director, by the way. She said, there's some rumblings in North Dakota and there are some water protectors there fighting a pipeline. Do you want to come with me and film this story? And I said, yes. Yes, I do. I don't even know why I said yes. The feeling was yes. So I said yes. So in doing so, we filmed, it's now a finished film. It's called End of the Line, The Women of Standing Rock. And it's a form of activism for us. Since we dropped our trailer last May, 4 federal court rulings have been overturned in the United States about pipelines. Yes, that's what we were hoping for. Yes, it happened. But to us, the film is a form of activism, not just a piece of art. So saying yes to Jana. I remember as a child, my stepmom is a social worker, and she would take us to her clinics, and we would meet families with kids that had spina bifida, like Ann, our friend. Ann Pogue is one of the mentors in Refugee Film School, kids with cerebral palsy and their families. And meeting these families gave me an appreciation for things like the use of my own body, not having to go through a challenge like that. And so I think I learned really early. My mom used to always take me to volunteering as well. And I just have always had that feeling that I should be doing something if I can, right? So I think a lot of us don't know how to do something. we don't know what to do exactly. So I just call it accidental activism, because I don't set out to be an activist. I just say yes to things and it accidentally happens.
That is just absolutely beautiful, because I think a lot of time we sometimes overthinking a small thing that we think that we can go out and solve the world. All we need is just one act of kindness, one action of doing things. And all I did is I just volunteer. I called Jana up and volunteer, and it led me. Sometimes you give, you get a lot more when you give. So I always think that the return is 100-fold if you're just willing to put yourself out there and do the baby step, do the little step. So I think that's what, is not accident in the way that you say is the accident, but I think it's all planned out, because you take that first step, and then that mile will just come from that one first step.
It's interesting, in Tennessee, where I live, just a few days ago, I was on a 2-week retreat. I returned home. In one day, we had flash floods, a tornado, a gas tanking explosion, and a sinkhole with a 10-foot geyser spouting out of it. So, we just rushed around our house, gathered towels and food and blankets and pillows and anything that we could, shoved it in our car, brought it to the church that was collecting donations. My niece, who lives 4 miles away, drove to these people's homes, what was left of them, to help them. My sister watched the kids while she could do that. We all do our part. Now, if you're in a flood but you're not flooded, you kind of have that survivor's guilt thing sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, my house didn't get flooded, right? But what can you do? Sometimes it's just common sense. Blankets, pillows, food, clothing, toiletries, whatever's needed, you just take action. That's all, and not taking, there's no judgment here for someone that doesn't do that. But sometimes I think we can get a little paralyzed with not knowing what to do. But I just say, pull that switch of just common sense. What can I do today that can make a difference, even to just one person?
Yeah. But what I love is you and Jana have seen far beyond the essential piece right now. I mean, that's obviously, we need to talk about, food and shelters and medicine, whatnot, but you are actually planting seeds. You have given them a career, a future, a hope for graphic designers, for video editing, and for coaching. I mean, you have given me something that I did not even think about last year at this time. Never thought about being a coach, because somehow I just didn't think that, I am fit for a coach. For somehow I just thought coach is just very different. But when I get into the program, I just see how beautiful coaching can be when you're impacting lives in a very non-judgmental and very non-directed way. You just let people bloom to whoever they want to be. So, so can you tell me a little bit about, how do you planting those seeds for the Malaysian students, and how does it work? And Jana, if you want to chime in, just tell us everything, because our audience probably would love to hear everything that you have to say here. I do.
Well, Jana has explained to me that the parents of these students in Malaysia, these teenagers, are not allowed to work. They have asylum in Kuala Lumpur, but they don't have much else. And the children are actually working for food money. Jana has graciously taught them how to do video editing and now graphic design, social media support. So, when I became a mentor as part of Refugee Film School, immediately I thought, wow, these kids, based on our Honduras program in Central America, these kids could also benefit from becoming coaches. You can coach from a mobile device. You can coach anyone on the planet except Switzerland, that's regulated there. There's no limitation on the income. So the first step is being coached. And I think it's more leadership coaching than anything else, but it's a way for us to do group coaching on Zooms with the students, to help them understand about self-worth, loving themselves, taking care of themselves as best as they can, as they are challenged with so much being a refugee family. So that organically grew into the mentors and the students themselves starting the coach training. This is all online. We Zoom about 15 hours a week, so students can come when they can. And they earn 125 accredited hours from the International Coaching Federation. And what this does is it sets them apart as a coach. Anyone at this point, because we're such a young industry, we're not regulated in most countries, anyone can call themselves a coach. But when you get trained and certified and credentialed through our program, it really sets you apart. So it's an ability that they now have to make money online through their mobile device. So yes, their internet connections might be slow. Yes, they might have some limitations, but this is an opportunity that they can have, and they don't have to be constrained by their refugee status living in Malaysia.
Any addition to it, Jana?
I'm excited about how they are growing in going to the coach training. I think anyone who has studied to be a coach learns that you must first be coachable, because everyone ahead of you who's studying to be a coach is getting their hours, and so you get to be the beneficiary of the coaching. And learning to be a good coach is a great personal growth activity. And these students are just blossoming. I always say that with our students, they're like thirsty plants that are a little bit wilted just from how long they've been waiting, sometimes 10 to 15 years, waiting to get the word that they'll be sent to a permanent home. But right now they have asylum in Malaysia. Their families all ran from the Taliban. And these were the children you see parents carrying when they can only take what they can carry. They carry these children. So they are like thirsty plants. And when you give them the least bit of knowledge and attention, the next day you see flowers. And I always imagine them as purple flowers. And I wish I could have sort of a graphic animation of seeing like a pot with a purple flower outside a door of a refugee home. And it represents, the one child that's learning, and that those flowers start growing. And then we start seeing purple flowers all over the world, of these flowers that are growing like vines and spreading education and spreading knowledge and spreading wisdom through coaching, through videos, and reaching out to other refugee children, because I choose to believe that the children of refugees have a great power in the world. And when they can unite, saying, we never want this to happen to other human beings, how can we stop it? They're going to be a powerful force for good.
It's so interesting that you said purple flower. And I haven't even talked to you about this yet, Jana. This is a surprise. So I met someone last week when I was on a retreat, and they were talking about Afghani refugees that went to Greece. So this would have been over the last 20 years. And there were women with backpacks, and they went through the water, right, with these backpacks. Everything they owned was in a backpack. And the backpacks were made out of kind of seatbelt material, really tough. You can't cut through it very easily. And when they got to Greece, they cut the backpacks apart and made crafts out of them. And Thistle Farms in Tennessee, which was started about 25 years ago, buys these art pieces and sells them online as a nonprofit fundraiser. And their logo is a purple flower. It's a milk thistle. And this person I met last week said, do you know any young women around the world who make things that we can source Right. So we'll have to have that talk later, but I just love what you just said. Why purple? Why did that come to you as a purple flower, do you think?
It's a visual that I've had ever since I came in to film school one day and just experienced it. It was like I imagined a purple flower, and then I started having this imagination of, we think of a force for good as being power. I imagine it as a visual of these delicate purple flowers having the strength to be everywhere and change the world just by being there, by being seen, by being helpful in the world. And they make the world a more beautiful place without the use of force.
Beautiful vision.
Well, I want to say that what Sarah and I have been through, and we are involved because there's a little bit of a selfish reason, because we have been through and we understand why those kids, those refugees needs help. For someone like you and Des that have not been through, but able to have that kind of heart and empathy, that is something so admirable. I mean, I just feel like, I'm doing it for a personal reason because, I see myself in those kids, and I want nothing like that to happen to kids that whatever, we have been through. But for you have been unconditionally giving hope, giving them confidence. And I have been with the program since October, and I have seen the world of differences that kids have built with their confidence because they are able to do the things that just with a tablet, with a computer. And I would like to see that how can people help extend that kind of kindness to help nourish that hope and continue to fund these kids for the most essential things right now, because COVID has been probably dampened all the aids from the regular life, activities. And now they are cooped up at home. Mentally, they are not healthy because they're kids still. They don't have a normal kid life. And thank goodness for Zoom, for group coaching. They have a place for an outlet to go and talk to other people. But beside that, how can our audience and people help?
Yes, it's been worse for refugee teens in Malaysia than most people can imagine for the families, because for most of the last 2 years, they've been in lockdown and they still don't have very many vaccines. It's very hard to get to. It's very hard to get vaccines, and then especially for refugees. So the students have not had school since March 12th of 2020. They've not been able to go to school. They don't leave their homes. And in Malaysia, there are roadblocks to make sure that you don't go far from your home. I was just talking to a friend in Australia and who said that people are only allowed to go for a walk or to go out of their homes for 1 hour per day. In Malaysia, the students just don't go out because, one, there are roadblocks and there are police and they don't want to be in danger of being detained, but they also don't want to get COVID because the rates for COVID and COVID deaths are higher per capita in Malaysia right now than in India.
Wow.
So it's very bad for them just for that one reason, but the other reason is their families have not been able to work, and refugee families don't have any cushion. Refugee families who have run from one country and they've made it to have asylum in another, but they haven't been resettled. They're just squatters.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think collaboration is really important. Refugee Film School, Radiant Coaches Academy, what we can do together exponentially grows beyond each one of us individually trying to help. I think my first thought, Lee, when you just asked that question is, donating to Refugee Film School, period. You know, if you can't be there, if you can't, you know, if you're not a mentor, if you're more at a distance, you can financially support what they're doing.
Right.
And gosh, even $1, literally even $1 can make a difference. I know in Honduras, during COVID, they had 2 hurricanes back to back last year, and the US dollar was 50 times stronger than the Honduran dollar. So you can imagine what $1 can do to help a country like that, or the refugee families in Malaysia. So I think some people think, well, I need to have $50 or $100 to make a donation. No, even $1, $5, $10 can make a difference. Jana, what's the website for Refugee Film School?
It's refugeefilmschool.com. And we have no employees. Everybody is a volunteer. Lee is on our board. Des is a mentor. I teach and mentor. We are all volunteers. And if you even can give $1, think of giving a bowl of rice. $1 would be a bowl of rice that a family could share. If you think of giving in terms of bags of rice that can keep a family alive, they're already rationing food. And if you can imagine kids trying to decide how little they can eat each day, I'm sure Lee and Sarah, you do know what this is like. And here we have so much in our world and so many things we could just, if I went without this, I could give that. And whatever you can give will be paid for food for the students' families.
Absolutely. I mean, how many people here drink Starbucks? And each cup of Starbucks coffee could easily buy $7. Just think that you can just skip one Starbucks, and if you're not drinking Starbucks, maybe some of your junk food money or anything, I mean, you can help a family for a meal or 2 or 3. Because the dollar, again, is very strong in Malaysia, and their standard living, I mean, all they need is little. And this is not just for anything. We're not even talking about internet connection, because that is the only means, the only way that they're connecting to outside world for mental support at this time. They don't have anything in the city. There's no grass and no land that they can actually roam around and inhaling fresh air. They pretty much have to sit at home. And when you have a crowded family, sitting at home is sometimes it's not the best thing. So I want to say that thank you so much for both being here to raise awareness. And please, our audience, if you're watching this, I want to plead with you, anything you can support. And if you absolutely cannot support, please say a prayers for them, because we all need prayers. Give something that you can, share the video to your friends. Gather your family, everybody chip in, break your little piggy bank for $1, dimes or quarters or whatever you can put together. And every donation in there is collected. And then Jana sent in one payment to someone in Malaysia who can actually exchange the rate and distribute a little bit to every single family, because the exchange rate, every time you do a transaction, it costs about $40 for that. So we want to collect everything and then transfer it one transaction instead of multiple transactions. But again, check out the Radiant Coaching Program if you think coaching is good for you, is something that you want to develop and look into in your future. If you have a corporate job and you feel like, maybe you have a knack for influencing people, take the course, and you never know that you might launch a business on the side. Everything is possible, unless, if you are willing to explore it, it will be possible. Any final words before we say goodbye to our audience?
I just noticed that Lee puts a face for me to the boat people, and Sarah puts a face to me to the Killing Fields experience, and the Refugee Film School students give a face to the Middle Eastern refugees. And I am so grateful. I know, I don't even know where this passion comes from that Jana and I have to serve others and help others, but I'm just glad I have it. And I'm so grateful that people like you and the refugee families are open to receiving our support. And even if it's just a prayer, like you said, send them love, send them some good energy. And if you can, send them some money on top of that. So I'm just so grateful for this time together.
And I have something funny to end with.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Jana on the cover.
Early,
let's see. I don't know how to make it so that you can see it better, but yeah.
early Photoshop.
Is it done by Des?
Yes, by Des's
Beautiful.
friend. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people are still using their brochure from 30 years ago.
Beautiful.
Look at those 90s fonts.
Yeah.
Great
But-
job.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us and for letting people see what refugees can do, because it gives my students so much hope to know you, Lee.
Oh, thank you. And if you want to go check in refugeefilmschool.com, if you have a need for graphic design, video editing, our students are phenomenal. They are so talented, and you can check out some of the example of what they can do for you in there. And the final word is, I want to thank you, everyone, because after all, we might be different, but we are in the same boat. We are sisters from different country, different mothers, but we are human, and we are sister in our humankind. And I want to thank you for your kindness, for your compassion to the people that was less, who have, less fortune than us.
Well, I just want to thank you, both of you, for your kind heart, for loving those refugee family, and your kindness. It's go a long way. You save them their life. You extend their life. You make their life much better, much more different than otherwise. If they didn't have you to assist them, to promote them, to speak for them, they have no voice, and you are their voice. So I'm so appreciate both of you.
They have a bright future because of you, because of both of you. They might have a future, but might not be a very good one. So you actually have given them a great future.
If I could say one more observation that I just had, Sarah and Lee.
Sure.
Sarah, when you were saying that we gave them, extended their life, gave them something, what I receive from knowing these students, it's so powerful. I have a line in one of my songs that says, "You inspire me to live courageously." They inspire me to live courageously. And when I think about how I feel and how Des feels and Lee feels, being able to help them, how much it helps us, I think of the two of you. And I think of the women like me and Des, and the men who help the two of you. If I could believe that two of our girls could be hosting a show someday about compassion and kindness, I would be so proud that my heart would just burst with joy. So thank you for the
Jana,
joy that you two have brought.
they're going to be far surpass us. Don't worry.
Imagine the technology later.
They are already incredible. They will surpass far from us. We are just nothing. We are just get to here because of people like you, like Des, have helped us in the past. And it doesn't matter how long, even if they don't talk about it, they will forever etch that in their heart. Like I have remembered the people who helped our family. We will never, ever forget. So I want you to know, at least none of those girls are gonna forget about your kindness and your compassion and what you go out of your way to help them to build that future. So
Mhm.
on behalf
Go
of all
on and on and on.
Mhm.
And they will do the same.
Yeah.
on behalf of the refugees, I want to thank you both.
Yeah, I can say this is a wheel of kindness. It's go around and around and around.
And it's so happy to see that, you know, it's like, it's just a beautiful thing because we need that more than hatred, more than all these ugly things that's happening in this world.
Yeah.
So all we need to do is just have more of this discussion and action. And I love that accidental activism. And I would see that, you know, purposeful action. But thank you everyone for watching. And we hope you will actually give a little bit of reflection on how can you actually can make a difference in the world, because I know that you are making a difference in the world. In this case, we want to plead with you about making a difference in this refugees world. And thank you everyone and have a great night.
Yeah.
Goodbye.